Okay. Now back to our randoms. Hopefully I don't spend... Well, doesn't matter how much time I spend on all of them, but might have had to split that last video into 2 parts. But anyway, let's see what we get next. 7. The Do-Over Damsel conquers the Dragon Emperor. Nope, haven't heard anyone talk about this one, but I'm gonna guess it's either isekai or villainous, or both. Let's see which one it is. Jesus Christ, that prologue was so fucking long and pointless and boring. Holy shit. You don't have to go into detail about every single part of the backstory before you do the time loop reincarnation bullshit. This is... I don't know why I'm so frustrated by this particular one, but it's just doing everything wrong in the most boring way possible right out of the gate. Really not interesting animation. It's going for like crisp and clean without having good character designs, and the color palette sucks shit. It's just blue and washed out and boring looking. So this is like, it's like the intro to 7th time loop, but without the multiple time loops. It's just one, and that intro drags on for fucking ever. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. It's so long and so boring. I don't know how anyone could watch that first episode and go like, yeah, this is good. Or not the first episode in total, but because I didn't make it through the first episode. I don't know how anyone could watch that introduction and go, yes, all of this information is necessary. All of this is serving a purpose at this moment and doesn't need to be saved for later, maybe, to create intrigue or something. Literally anything to be like hook the audience, you know, like, hey, why is this happening? Maybe I'll have to find out to discover more, you know, create intrigue. Nope, you're just going to tell me right now? You're going to explain every single detail of this backstory right now? Cool. Already bored. Next. Okay, Do-Over Damsel off the list. Let's roll again and see what's next. It's going to be 11. The story of girls who couldn't be magicians. Okay, I've heard a little bit. This was like one of the lower tiered shows that that a lot of people just skipped over, but I know some people definitely had some interest in. Slice of Life magic show sounds kind of good. I think that's what it is. Let's give it a shot. Not really feeling this one. I got a little bit over halfway through the first episode, and I will say points for trying to have like a distinct aesthetic and stuff. Although, like, at first it's this very, very beautiful, almost watercolory kind of aesthetic to it. Although I was wondering, like, some of it like blended together a little too much. Some of the colors just weren't quite right. But I mean, props for having that aesthetic. But then, once the flashback was over and we get to the present day, it's just not that anymore. Now, granted, it does still have its own aesthetic, but the rest of the show doesn't look nearly as good as that intro bit. So that's a little bit of a letdown. But mostly, I'm just kind of bored by it. I like the concept for the main character of, like, she got into this prestigious academy and was scored, like, #1 on the entrance exam, but she didn't get into the course that she wanted to get into, which is the magic course, which, you know what? I can relate to that. I was fairly high up in my class in high school, but I didn't get into a lot of the colleges that I wanted to get into because I was going for music at the time. So I can relate to that, being like really skilled overall, but not being skilled enough in the thing that you really want to do. I get that. But the show is just kind of boring so far. It's really not doing a lot. It doesn't seem like it is attempting to do something very interesting with that concept. Like, it all... And I can see that it's like planting seeds for certain characters of like why they didn't get into the magic program either, but in the moment I'm just not enjoying the script very much. It's very clunky in how the dialogue is doled out sometimes. The side characters are annoying as hell. I can just say that right out the gate. Some of these side characters are just fucking real annoying. So I don't want to deal with them later, I guess. It's like just preposterous how corny some of their traits are. Yeah, mostly I'm just not really hooked, I guess. It's totally fine. If I were to watch this and it just continued on as is, it would probably be like a light 5, but like I'm not really interested in watching a whole series that's just a light 5, I guess. I just wish the script had a little bit more oomph to it, I guess. And also like the directing too. I wish this had like a little bit more impact in the shot composition and everything, because it's really like, it's not incompetent in any way, it's just plain. The animation and art style, actually not even the animation, it's just the art style is really the only standout thing about it, and that's just not enough to hold my attention, I guess. Alright, girls who couldn't be magicians coming off the list. Let's roll our random number generator again. Next one's gonna be 4. What is 4? You are Miss Servant. Okay, I've heard some decent rumblings about this one as like a comedy kind of series. Heard the OP's really cool. Really don't know much about it other than that. So let's jump in. It's alright. I got through an episode and a half of You Are Miss Servant. Is this what Mahoromatic is about? Because I've been meaning to watch that for a while. And that's a Gainax show, so that might actually look really cool. Not that this show looks bad, but it's just very... the character designs are hyper detailed, and the flashback assassin stuff, it has some nice... despite how dark everything is, like color palette wise, it still looks pretty nice. But overall, this is just a very plain looking show outside of the detail in the character designs and some of the character movements and such. And also, it's just not very interesting. It's not bad, but like, again, this is a show that doesn't leave any room for intrigue. It's just immediately like, this is everything that has happened in my backstory. I have done all of these things. And it's just boring. It's just kind of boring, the way that they do this. And it's like, I understand this is the theme here is supposed to be like, it's the little kindnesses that we do to people. People can turn their lives around. But it's like, the way that this maid takes the absolute smallest kindnesses from the main character are just like, every single tiny small thing he does seems like a massive revelatory moment for her, and it just gets a little too much after a while. Like, this has happened multiple times already in just an episode and a half, and it's just getting to be like, I fucking get it, okay? I do like the character designs, I guess. I'm just remembered again. The design dynamic reminds me a little bit of, if you've read Sachi's Monstrous Appetite, these two characters kind of look like older versions of those characters. So I hope that gets an anime at some point. That would be cool. But I did mention that the OP for this was, like, really stand out. And you know what? Goddamn, this is one of the coolest OPs I've ever seen. Just this massive collage of mixed media stuff, like some stop motion, live action, just so many different animation styles. And also it's a tricot song. I think that's how you pronounce it. Tricote. I don't know. Tricote. I haven't looked up the kanji for it. But they're like a math rock band. I've been listening to a lot of their albums lately. The only one I haven't listened to yet is the latest one. Good band. Would definitely recommend listening to them. Not really sure I'd recommend this show. It's just kind of okay. And I'm not really looking for kind of okay. Okay. You are Miss Servant. Off the list. Down to 18 randoms left. Let's see what we roll next. It's going to be 1. Okay, Loner Life in Another World. I think this is the first proper isekai of the... No, actually, no. The villainous one was an isekai. But, so... This will be the first proper non-villainous isekai of the season, I think. Unless I'm forgetting about one. I don't think I am. Anyway, I have not heard anyone talk about this show. Let's try it out. Goddamn, I cannot stand these fucking smug prick isekai MCs. This dude fucking sucks. I made it like 4.5 minutes in, it looks like. This show is so fucking boring and lame. It's an isekai. It's one of the ones where the whole class gets isekai'd, apparently. But the show is called Loner Life in Another World, so it doesn't fucking matter, because we get a flash forward of him being alone and doing stuff, being just fine, being alone, doing stuff, and then we go back to the isekai. By the way, it's like, in the show, it's like, let's take us back to when I got isekai'd, and I'm like, oh, I'd really rather not. I'd rather not go through this, and the fucking isekaiing sucked shit. It's just, whole class gets isekai'd for some reason, and while the isekaiing is happening, he's just rambling off isekai tropes, like he's the goddamn fucking, what's that book? He's like a goddamn database animal. It's so fucking lame and boring, and it's very, very mid-looking. Absolutely nothing standout looking about this production at all. The in medias res opening actually looked like too cartoony for the tone that this is going for. It's just so... There's clearly not enough thought put into how this show was going to look. It is just so... It's just got a very... Well, we're making an isekai, so let's do the isekai. At first I thought this was going to be like edgier than it is, and I was going to hate that, but honestly, in hindsight, I think that would have at least given it some personality, because otherwise this is just a nothing. This show is nothing. There's nothing here. Why am I still here? Why am I still talking?
Now that I look at the key visual, though, I also know exactly what type of show this is going to be. Like, we got all of the girls from his class thirsting after him because he's like the super badass loner, and he just wants to be by himself, live his loner life, and he's got all these hot anime girls chasing him. Boo fucking who. I fucking hate it. Ugh. Come on. Loner life is off the list. So let's see what's next. We're down to 20 shows total for this season. So, but we got 17 randoms left. Let's see what it's going to be. 9. Acro Trip. I heard some people talking about this. And I also heard that it might have crashed and burned. I also don't know what it's about. Something makes me think sports anime, but I have no clue. So let's find out.
I really wanted to like that one, but it's just not that interesting or fun to look at. I got 3 episodes into Acro Trip. It's actually another magical girl parody show. It's very much a, if gushing over magical girls was PG and not immensely horny. And you know what? I was ready to ball with that, like a PG version of that with some really fun visuals. I like the character designs a lot for this show. That is probably the reason I watched 3 episodes instead of 2. But it just doesn't have the sauce, man. It's a really weak production, and it's just not, aside from a few cuts here and there, it's just not interesting to look at. And also the parody elements just aren't quite as good as stuff around it regarding magical girls and henshin heroes and all that stuff. It's gushing over magical girls, but worse, but but worse. It's love afterworld domination, but worse. It's Machikado Mazoku, but worse. It's doing the same things as these other parody shows, and the concepts that it comes up with are interesting concepts, but it just does not have the oomph behind it to execute it in a way that's interesting. It's just not all that good. I would like Dungeon People is another good example of this, what subgenre this show is. This unwrapping tropes, or this do I use the D word here? Do I call it a deconstruction? No, it's not that at all. But it's like this like unpacking of the tropes that we're used to with established genres, and doing things that are technically interesting, just not in a way that actually looks or feels interesting. It's a waste, honestly. It's a shame that this production is so weak and that the script has so little oomph behind it, because this could have been a really damn good show, but it's really just kinda there. And that's a shame.
Alright, Acro Trip coming off the list. We'll do probably, 2 more randoms for this video. Let's see what's next. 12. What is 12? Let This Grieving Soul Retire. I'm pretty sure this is a fantasy one. I have not seen anybody talk about it. So let's just give it a go, I guess. I have no clue what to expect.
Oh my god, the exposition in this show fucking sucks. It's so bad. It is just doling out so much information right at the start that is completely fucking unnecessary. I don't care. Oh my god, I don't fucking care. I cannot accurately describe to you how much I don't care about all this info that is being dumped on my head right now. Oh my fucking god, it sucks. And the whole time I was just like, please let the camera pan down like 5 inches so I can see this girl's tits. Please, so that there's something that I can distract myself from other than listening to this nauseating, fucking droll, boring-ass dialogue. It's just explanation after explanation for shit that does not fucking matter. Oh my god, that sucked.
Okay, Grieving Soul off the goddamn list. God, that sucked. Okay, we'll do one more random before our next end cap, and it's gonna be 15. What is 15? Oh, Herbivorous Dragon Season 2. Okay, nice. The first season of this was a really fun, thing that not a lot of people ended up watching. It was actually a Chinese production, so it's like the only Chinese production that I consistently put on these lists because most of them just, I don't want the hassle of trying to sort through all what torrent I need to find for them. Well, anyway, I like the first season of this. Let's go for more.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and say that is the only dragon-centric show from this season that is actually worth watching. Just finished up season 2 of, what's the full title for this one? Herbivorous? I have no clue how, I've never actually heard this word out loud before. The Herbivorous Dragon of 5,000 years was unfairly treated as a villain or something like that. Unfairly villainized. That's what it was. Season 2 is good. I think this is actually better than the first season. The first season was a little jagged in some areas. If I recall, this was like 2 years ago that the first season aired. And it was in the seasonal wrap-up show, so you can go ahead and check that out from the past. I think that was like the summer 2022 season, I think. Somewhere around there. Either summer or spring, I'm not sure. But, anyway, this one's actually a Chinese series, and I mentioned earlier that I don't typically group Chinese animations in with the seasonal wrap-up show. A lot of it's because it's a pain to gather them all together, because most of them aren't streamable, but also most of them are just like CG slop from what I've seen, so I don't typically venture into that realm of stuff. The first season of this one I watched honestly by accident because I didn't know that it was a Chinese series at the time. I probably would have still given it a chance because it looked cool, but I'm definitely glad that I did give this one a shot. Because this season, the first season was like a much more like, had more like smaller arcs and stuff to, I think it had like 3 different arcs in it. And this season is just all one arc about the Kingdom of Asga. And just this, royal feud going on and this attempt to actually summon a real evil dragon. It's just fun stuff. It's still got the great comedy chops of the previous season. I was laughing out loud a ton during this watch. Just very quick comedic timing, very funny delivery. By the way, I did watch the Chinese audio for this one because it matched the lip flaps a little more. I know the Japanese dub has Aoyuki as the Japanese name for the character is Reiko. And I think the actual light novel or web novel or something is a Japanese novel, but it's being animated by a Chinese studio and then being dubbed back into Japanese because I'm like 99% positive that the actual original dub for the show is the Chinese one. And then the Japanese one, they got Aoyuki to play. In Japan, in the Japanese dub, her character's name is Reiko. In the Chinese dub, I believe her name is Linzu. Linzu. I am not good at all at pronouncing Chinese, so I'm gonna go with Linzu. 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 Anyway, the servant girl helping our main dragon guy. And I did listen to like half an episode of the Japanese dub, and it's good, but I just like the Chinese one a little bit more, mostly because I'm just used to it already, and I love how Linju sounds in that one, just a little bit more than Aoyuki's performance. Yeah, it's just a real fun show. I really liked the two royal characters in this. We have they refer to the title as king, but both of the characters are girls. So I guess it's just like there are no queens. You just become a king in this kingdom, I guess. Whatever. Girl power. Let's do it. We have Vanette. I'm just gonna use the subtitled names for everyone because I have no clue what their actual names are, and it's actually surprisingly difficult to find the actual Chinese names of these characters. Again, because it came from a Japanese novel, so that's weird. So the original names are the ones that were subtitled in the Crunchyroll release, but then for the Chinese dub, they changed some of the character names. And then for the Japanese dub, they changed the names back to the original names, I think is what happened. Anyway, we have Vanessa, the actual king of Asga, who's just this very prim and proper, very heroic kind of, not prim and proper, just very proper, very heroic, outgoing leader, who wants to help redeem the reputation of her sister Rosetta, who has been like unfairly outcast because of some stupid prophecy. And I love the dynamic between these two because it's like Vanessa really wants to do right by her sister, but she's just not listening at all to what Rosetta is saying. She's kind of just talking past her the whole time, not in like in a mean-spirited way or anything like that. It's just that she's just doesn't get it, and that just compounds Rosetta's resentment towards her and towards the kingdom as a whole, and leads her to do these evil acts like resurrecting a dragon, or I guess summoning a dragon out of thin air or something to destroy the kingdom. But yeah, this is just a real fun watch. I love the character dynamics in it. I love the little bits of lore that we're getting. Like, we actually get confirmation of what exactly our main dragon character is. Like, he's actually, like, they, like, go in, like, this resurrected with great mage character shows him like what specific species that he is and what happened to his kind. That was some really cool lore to delve into. I liked all the stuff with the black blood cult. That was very funny. This is a very silly series that never sacrifices the seriousness of things that actually need to be serious. That's what I like. That's like when you know a comedy hits good, is like it knows how to be funny around the serious moments and still take the serious moments seriously without a wink and a nod to the camera. And along with that, the fights are pretty dang good in this too. Nothing like no scenes that explicitly stick out in my head really, but just the level of the like average level of the action scenes in this are just fucking really solid. Just really good color design. Actually, really good color design overall for the series. They do some really cool stuff with lighting in some scenes. You would not expect. I would not expect this level of quality from a half-length anime episodes, because these episodes are only 13 minutes each. So normally that comes with like a dip in quality, but they really, much like Magical Girl and Evil Lieutenant, it keeps the quality high. It's not quite as high quality as that series, but it's still up there. This is a good. Also, I love. There's some shots in the OP, because the OP is letterboxed, but there are some shots in the OP where like the particle effects and like fire physics and stuff break out into the black bars of the letterboxing, and that was really cool. I love this series. This series, after just slogging through some of the other stuff that I slogged through this season, and getting to this one was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be working through these anime. I'm not supposed to be pushing through, because this one just came totally naturally. It was super fucking easy to watch, very quick, very fast paced, just very kept me engaged the entire time. Was very rarely picking up my phone to do something else. This was just a damn good short little series, and I think I'm going to be a little bit harsher on some stuff going forward now that I know where the bar is, because this is like, it's not going to be like, this show's not going to be way up there on the list, but like the bar for what I'm going to tolerate has been set. If it doesn't at least come within striking distance of this show, I don't think I'm going to bother, even if they're shows that have gotten like a lot of acclaim this season, or like were considered like hidden gems or something, because I'm tired of struggling to finish shows with stuff like Acro Trip and Majulumieres and these shows that I think have potential but just never get there, because this show, by all rights, didn't really have potential at all, and it made the best out of basically a C-tier plot idea, and it just ran with it, and it did it really goddamn well. This is a fun show.
Alright, Herbivorous Dragon Season 2 is complete. We're going to put you right in here, going to break up this giant block of winter titles in the number 39 spot with a decent 7. Man, I really like that show. Hope there's a season 3. Okay, I think that's enough randoms for this video, so now we're going to jump into Sengoku Youko, the Chaos of 1,000 Demons arc. This is actually the last 2 core show for the fall season, I believe, and this is a sequel to did this air this year? I don't remember. Yeah, it aired this year. It's in the number 30 spot right now. So I guess we're going to get the whole series done this year. I'm still pissed off that Tokyo Pop stopped putting out volumes of the manga for this. You know me, I'm a huge Mizukami boy. I was I was very give and take about the adaptation of the first season, but all this stuff is content that I do not have any familiarity with. So let's jump in.
Damn, I definitely feel like I went on a journey with that one. Whew. Okay, I just finished up Sengoku Youko Season 2, also known as the Thousandfold Chaos Arc. Which is actually the majority of the story. If you recall, I covered Season 1 during the winter seasonal wrap-up show. So, got to do all of Sengoku Youko this year. Although at the end of the day, I still wish I had read this as the manga instead, maybe. But there are some benefits to the anime. But the reason I didn't read this part of the manga is because goddamn Tokyo Pop decided they weren't going to print any more copies of it. They only printed the first big arc of the series, which Season 1 covered in its entirety. And then they just decided to not publish any more of it. So, fuck you, Tokyo Pop. You continue to disappoint. Anyway, Thousandfold Chaos Arc picks up where Season 1 left off, with Jinka becoming a thousand-tailed fox, everyone sort of splitting off in their own directions, and makes the very bold choice to completely switch protagonists. Jinka was the main character of Season 1, alongside all the others like Tama and Shinsuke and stuff. But now we have a new main character, that being Senya, the little kid from Season 1 that our main trio fought against a lot during the first season. And it's a very obvious sort of like thematic role reversal in a sense, whereas Jinka was a human who wanted to become a Katawara. Senya is, he believes himself to be a Katawara, and he wants to become human. He's the kid who had like 1,000 Katawara implanted inside his body, and so now he just has these monstrous protrusions that come out of his body and attack people. And boy, do we get a big old trauma moment in the first episode where when he accidentally kills one of his friend's dads. And that trauma definitely sticks with him for a while. That's one of the many Mizukami isms of this series, just perpetuating trauma that never leaves your psyche. Again, if you haven't been following the seasonal wrap-up show for a while, I am a huge fan of Satoshi Mizukami. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer and Spirit Circle are my number 1 and 2 manga, respectively. So really like him as a mangaka. And I also what Planet With? That was the anime original one that he did that was pretty good. I need to revisit that one now that I think I have an even firmer grasp on some Mizukamiism kind of tropes. But that one was also very good. This one, I think, again, just as an anime, for the entirety of the thing, I am an anime viewer for this one. I would put it slightly below Planet With. But that's mostly because it is very obvious that this story is being rushed like crazy. There are a lot of moments in this season, and I mentioned this in the last season too, where it was like, whoa, they're really blazing through this at a blistering pace. Now I haven't read the back 2/3 of the manga to confirm, but it really feels like it at times. Now, on the plus side, that really keeps things moving at a brisk pace. Like, this is a very fast series to get through. There very rarely feels like it's dragging. Not that it never feels like it. There are some episodes in like the middle section of this season where it definitely feels like it's starting to drag, and like some points right before the big final climax episodes. But overall, it feels very easy to watch very quickly, and one of the reasons for that is, again, sort of a Mizukami thing, is I just cannot predict anything that's going to happen until, like, right before it happens. I have, like, even on, like, the big macro scale of, like, how the plot is going to play out, trope-wise, I just really could not predict a lot of the stuff that was going to happen in the series, because it just constantly kept taking left turns into something completely different, and it really kept the plot driving forward, constantly kept grabbing my attention, never let me get completely settled into a groove. So I don't know how it'll be on a second watch now that I know what happens, but well, actually, to be honest, if I rewatched this even relatively soon, I would probably still feel that way, because so much happens in this that I would probably just forget some things that happened. Maybe not everything, because there are some big, pretty impactful moments in it, but I do think the sort of unpredictability of it, and also just the amount of things that happened, is, for the most part, definitely working in its favor. Sometimes it doesn't, and you just sort of get overloaded with information, especially when we're talking like power systems and stuff. A lot of times with the power system, it's just in one ear, out the other. So definitely could have used a little bit more refining there, but overall the power structure of the world is pretty clear and pretty interesting. We finally got an answer to who those cloaked figures are in at the end of season 1, which brings us to another Mizukamiism, which is the combination of fantasy and sci-fi tropes. It's not really sci-fi in this, but it has sort of the aesthetic and trappings of sci-fi, where it's like we've got these guys from who are called the Void People, and it turns out they traveled across time to come to this world to kidnap Senya and Jinka, bring them back to their time, and help use them to avoid the fate of being crushed by a meteor. Wild. It's so... could not come up with that if I tried. And it's good. It's just the ideas just constantly keep flowing in this, and they're always either very well tied into the thematic ideas that are being explored, ideas like fate or redemption or regret or something like that, or how those ideas relate to the different points the characters are at in their journey. Like, I love, again, trying back to that trauma thing that I mentioned earlier, we have Senya constantly, every so often relapsing into the sort of regret and like, oh, I'm a monster, I need to get away from people kind of pattern. And just the different... him slowly, very slowly learning how to be okay with himself as he goes on. I thought I was going to go somewhere else, but I really wasn't. Not a whole lot of... we have a sort of I really like Shinsuke's transformation from like edgy swordsman guy to now he has to be the sort of mentor role for this next generation of people coming up so that he can help so that they can help him free Jinka. Um, yeah, just the characters for the most part are really lovable and fun to see interact with each other. This friendship turned into romance between Senya and Tsukiko. Um, that's another thing Mizukami is really good at is setting up like that. Well, that's one of the big reasons why I love Mizukami is he always puts a romance in, um, because why not? And it's always like very. It never feels forced in any way. It always feels like there's the two have a really strong chemistry, and I really like the way that developed between Senya and Tsukiko. I feel like Tsukiko could have had a little bit more presence in the story overall because a lot of times it feels like she just gets shoved into the background, but mostly that's because of Senya being a broody asshole loner. Not even asshole loner, just sort of a broody, I don't belong here kind of dude. And that's sort of the way that motivates Tsukiko to be like, what? No, I'm going to drag you back here by your goddamn hair. You need to accept that we love you and care about you. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about this series is this idea of like you are deserving of love and compassion and the relationships that you build with people. It's an extremely uplifting message for again because this series was so unpredictable. I was concerned about it turning into like real hard bittersweet territory, but much like all of the other Mizukami stuff that I've consumed, it has a very definitively happy ending. Now the epilogue has like a little bit of bittersweet stuff in it, but like nothing that spawns like regret or a bad taste or anything. It's got sort of a almost vaguely Gurren Lagann-ish kind of ending, you know, with Simon just sort of walking off into the sunset as this elder who has to take care of things and train the new generation to help build up society. Oh, speaking of which, I really like, because I don't think they talked about it too much in the first season, but I really like how the second season places itself in the context of Japanese history. With like we interact with the shogun Akitaka Yoshiteru or Ashikaga. Is it Ashikaga? I think, or Akitaga. I don't remember. Yoshiteru, the one who it's the shogun who was killed by the guy that Nobunaga goes on to kill. I only know that because like it shows like the whole chain of leadership changes in this epilogue little thing that I thought was very fun. This was just a really, I'm not gonna say really really fun watch because there were definitely some frustrating moments from time to time, and like there was like 2 episodes like in the middle-ish of this series where it really felt like it was starting to drift off the rails a bit with the beach episode, which I'm not upset with it for being a beach episode. It's just that particular episode, and then the one after that, it felt like it was starting to careen off the rails a little bit and get a little bit annoying. But otherwise, really fun. My biggest complaint though about the series is how it looks. Because a lot of times the production is just kind of middling. Now, it makes up for it in some strong ways, especially with like lighting and color design. There's some really splendid lighting choices littered throughout this series. The use of sunlight is almost always really strong. I do think the character designs are a little bit stronger in this season than they were in the first season, but they're not always super strong. I think Tsukiko's design in particular does drift a little bit, although maybe that's because I was paying attention to hers more than others because she's the main love interest. Such is life. But the I, again, if you watched my take on the first season, really not a whole lot has changed production wise. The action scenes have a lot of impact, but they can also get very confusing looking at times. And there's not a lot of sakuga, but there's a lot of really solid drawings, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's just I do wish this production was a little stronger, and the fact that this was two cores now instead of just one really started to stretch the limits of that. It never got into like melty territory or anything, but there were a lot of moments where the shots just really could have used a little bit more time to make them look really good, be it because of compositing or just the framing or just any number of things. This is and it's not like it never has peaks. Like, it does have some really good peaks, although those peaks are usually in still shots and just like big impacting moments that are a little bit more still. So I do wish the production was a little bit more solid. Yeah, this is just, I am very happy that I ended up finishing this one. Oh, and Evan Call's still on the soundtrack. The piano tracks he comes up with are definitely much more prominent, I think, in this season than they were in the first season. That really comes through, and some of those just hit really well in some of the peak emotional moments. Although there is definitely a lot of he gets a lot of mileage out of the same five-ish tracks in this one. So you're gonna be hearing a lot of soundtrack repeats in it. But yeah, really enjoyed seeing the conclusion to Sengoku Youko. I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to watch this one to completion just because I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to see the rushed, slightly weaker production anime version as opposed to the manga. But since I read almost exclusively physical copies, I knew I was never really going to get to the manga in the future unless someone else picks it up. And once the groove got going for this one, it really got going. It's got a knack for combining a lot of very familiar tropes in ways that are both comfortable and intriguing. Oh, I completely forgot to mention this dragon character that Senya fights throughout the series, who makes for a very interesting rival for him. Yeah, I really liked Senya's arc as a character, the way that he just sort of grows to become much more worldly and understand the how he fits into this cycle of violence, how he portrays the idea of this shonen hero who won't let anyone die. Yeah, it's good. If you liked the first season. I think you'll definitely like the second season. It's a very fitting conclusion to everything involved, almost in an overly saccharine way, but I love the way Mizukami writes the saccharine stuff, so it hits just right for me. And it's also pretty funny. I will admit for the most part, the comedy's real good. Sorry, I'm recording this real late again. If I want to date this one, I actually finished the last 2 episodes after Fauna's graduation stream. So that's when I'm recording this, which was at this point probably 2 weeks ago, I think. Depending on how far along I get with these videos. Yeah. I feel like I thought I was going to have more to say about this, but I feel like I would have to take notes, honestly, on in a rewatch, because a lot of it just sort of flashes by, and I do wish it had taken a little bit more time with some ideas, because it's only 22 episodes, so like, and it's like 2 episodes of the broadcast overall were recap episodes, so they could have expanded out to 24 episodes or even 26 episodes to really flesh out some of these ideas, but I guess they wanted to keep it nice and tight, or that's all they were going to be allowed, or that's all they could fit into the planning in terms of production. I don't know. It could have been a better adaptation, but it is an adaptation that I'm glad we got. I'm feeling very this show makes me feel like how Berserk fans feel, in the sense of like, well, at least it got adapted. Not quite to that extreme, because dear Lord, I will never watch any more of Berserk 2016 than I already watched, which was probably 2 episodes too many. I think I watched 3 episodes of that. Yeah. Mizukami good.
Okay. Sengoku Youko is complete. And we're going to scroll up to where I put season 1, which was in the number 30 spot. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to change where I put it. Maybe I'll move it up above Windbreaker at some point, but for now I think it's fine where it is, so we're just going to change the color of the text here to match that this ended in the fall season, and so this encompasses all of Sengoku Youko now. Wish the production was a little stronger, but damn, I'm glad that I got to see all of it.